Chitubox version 1.9. We're gonna take a look at it, but before we get too far, it hard crashed my computer. So buyer beware, or user beware, I guess, because this one's totally free. Let's go back to basics. Try number 2. Hey everybody, and no, I'm not actually kidding. Chitubox version 1.9.0 hard crashed my computer to where I had to load a backup that was done earlier this morning. This is why you should back up your computers often, and I can prove this. We'll put some images on the screen that show you how broken things got. It occurred when we were actually saving the file, so I'm not going to be doing that. I can tell you that the saving feature inside of Chitubox version 1.9 is considerably faster than that of version 1.8.1. But considering that every single time that Chitubox makes an update, something bad continues to go wrong for me, this will likely be one of the last videos we ever do on Chitubox. We had such a great experience with Lychee Slicer, which we'll put in a card right up there. I highly recommend you go check it out. It's both free and paid. You want to have the paid version, it's $30 a year, whereas Chitubox Pro is $169 a year, and it doesn't crash your friggin' computer. This should not happen. Previous versions of Chitubox would just randomly leave blank layers when it was sliced. And I'm still, to this day, using version 1.7.3 because it's the last useful version of Chitubox that I've been able to get. It does take forever to slice, but now with Lychee Slicer, I don't need it. We're gonna dive into this. I'm a little upset already because I just spent the last, well, had an hour worth of recording that ends up getting edited down to like a half hour's worth of time. All the effort into that video and tons of other things that I was working on, by the way, that are all just gone. And not just like, oh, they're recovered. No, gone. Anything done before 2 o'clock this morning, gone. But this is why we take backups. This is why you should as well. Anyways, let's dive into Chitubox and let's hope that it's not as bad as my segue to our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, we will be self-sponsoring these videos until we can get some awesome sponsors to support us. If you want to get your ideas out of your head and into your hands with full art part rapid prototyping and product development, utilizing awesome technology like 3D printing, you could reach out to us at 3D Musketeers. Links will be in the description down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to leave this video a like and get subscribed if you haven't, because something like 85% of you aren't subscribed. We would appreciate your support. Helps our channel grow. I've already got the Benchy loaded because one thing it did do right is it did autosaves. I will give Chitubox version 1.9 a bit of a nod. It does autosave well, although I had a whole thing where we went through the support settings and all that. Things might be different, so I apologize. What I'm going to show you is likely not a stock experience because I set it up in the last video. But let's see how you bring in your printer. Now, right now, we are looking at an Elegoo Saturn build plate, but you can easily bring in printers not over here where you would expect, but over here in the settings. You can click here, find whatever printer you want, and add it, including things like unreleased printers, like the Saturn S that I did not know about until this video, which is kind of cool. E-Pax, Creality, all the big names in affordable resin 3D printers. And if you want to learn more about affordable resin 3D printing, we did a whole video on it. We will card to it right there. And that is as of earlier this year. That video will need to be periodically updated, so keep an eye out. Make sure you get subscribed because we're going to be doing more of them as new printers come out, probably once or twice a year. Anyways, we've got our machine in here. Chitubox now uses stock thing called resting time. What that means, not a darn clue, but you need to update your firmware. If you want to use the old thing, make sure you use light off delay. Now, I remember this because I mentioned it in the last video that is now gone. Its stock light off delay was 8.5 seconds. Put it to 0. Because it is 0 in all of the other ones that I've ever used. So all the other versions of Chitubox, Lychee Slicer, Prusa Slicer, it's all 0. So I think that's their way of pushing you to update your firmware. But if this software is any experience for what the firmware is going to be, I'm not touching my 3D printers. It's not happening. I'm sorry. I'm going to use it the old way because the old way just friggin' works. And if you want to call me, you know, an old soul for that, go ahead. Now, I do like that there are some better feature controls in here that you're able to do, you know, an actual height plus another height. I don't really know what this is for, why there's a plus and an and what it means. And there's nothing that describes it. So it's there, but there's something with that. I'm assuming it's for printers that can have 2 different options. The Saturn is not one of them, but hey, whatever. And if you use Gray Soraya Tech Fast Resin, these are actually pretty good settings. So if you want to copy them, grab a screenshot. Totally cool with that. We do lose infill. So from 1.7.3 to 1.9, infill is gone. You shouldn't use infill on resin prints anyways. Make them solid unless you're going to hollow them, but that's a feature that you can do inside of Chitubox. So under advanced, we have our anti-aliasing as well as image blur, and something that you have to pay for in Lychee Slicer, which is pretty cool to see. Now it is still in beta, of course, are your tolerances. So if you want to print out some test pieces, you can measure them and update your tolerances so that when you're printing, you can get much closer to exact on. Because remember, resin does have a tendency to shrink or expand depending on the type of resin. Generally speaking, most resin is going to shrink in the XY and expand on the Z. And the reason that it expands on the Z is due to the peel forces involved in these cheaper resin printers. In a printer like the Prusa SL1S that we covered a little bit, we'll card to it right there, it doesn't have that problem because the vat also tilts as the build plate is moving up. So as the vat tilts, the build plate moves up. On these cheaper resin 3D printers, the vat doesn't move. And so you actually have to physically rip it from the vat. And that can cause a little bit of Z elongation. So just keep aware of that. That's all you need to know. Anyways, this is what we got for a Saturn. Let's take a look at a Benchy and let's make it happen. Unlike other resin slicers, and if you're wondering about other resin slicers, we have a card to a playlist right there. Chitubox does not auto-orient, so you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. And unfortunately, like a lot of things in Chitubox, it is not all that obvious. So as soon as you misclick once, it goes away and it's not what you want it to be anymore. And let's say I want to rotate my model. Unless I'm using a 3D Connection space mouse, as soon as I go to rotate my model, I now have to click on the model again, click rotate, click that. It's like, guys, it's just not user-friendly. Almost every other resin slicer that we've tested on the market has auto-orient. Why doesn't the largest one, Chitubox, which I'm fairly certain is the largest one out there, not have auto-orient? Please, somebody explain this to me. I also don't understand why Chitubox uses so much resource on a computer. If we look, this is not something that should be all that taxing to a computer, but I kid you not, it absolutely is. It uses a ton of CPU and a ton of GPU power for a software that's not even in the computing stage yet. We're just viewing something. And I have a 1080 Ti. So it's not like it's a slacker of a card. Prusa Slicer, Lychee Slicer, Cura, Matter Control, none of them have this problem. And it's something that while Chitubox has gotten better at through the ages, they're just not on par with everybody else. Every time Chitubox does something, they're like, this is all new. I'm like, no, it's not. It's new for you. It's not new for anybody else. The one thing Chitubox does do pretty decently, its support structure is nice. It pre-processes it all for you to make life a little bit easier. And I am seeing that this is not stock settings. This is actually holding the settings from the previous video. So previously the density was at 50%. And if you leave your mouse on it, it'll actually show you the support density thing. So this is nice. I do like this touch inside of Chitubox, but I'm sure that is taxing my computer more than I care to have. So I'm going to leave this running for a second here. Let's go look at my computer and see if it's taxing it. Yep! That is a big yes, sirree. It is taxing it. Literally, just these little motions tax a computer way more than it should. So if you're using a relatively low-powered computer, be careful. So we're just going to go ahead and do all supports on this thing. It doesn't take that long to slice and get your supports ready, which is nice. I want to give it credit there. However, it does miss some things that I think it should have. Now, similar to Lychee Slicer, it does kind of show you where your overhangs are. However, it won't say, hey, if you don't put something here, we're going to have a problem. It doesn't tell you that, which I think so far Lychee Slicer is one of the few that do it that aren't like preform. Preform for Formlabs does it. And I keep talking about preform, and it's only because I believe that preform is really the industry standard when it comes to resin 3D printer softwares. So as we see, when we are making these clicks and adding the support material, it go ahead and auto adds it for us, and we can change basically any settings that we want. Now, one thing I do like about this, especially for models that have tricky geometry, you can just kind of edit your point. So you can move it up and down, right? So, all right, maybe I wanted that point there. It's really, really easy to do. I can grab here, I can move this to wherever the heck I want, and it'll try to print it. It may not work well. And as you can see, it is calculating as I'm moving. So I'll give it credit. It's actually pretty cool that it can do this. But again, be careful because it's a little rough on computers. So like this one here, I might move that to be over there. That way the pad is not on the outside. It does not come stock with rafts, so just make sure that you go ahead and add one if you want it. But again, the support structure is pretty easy to do here. And unlike Lychee Slicer, and I'm not sure if Prusa Slicer lets you do it. You guys will have to go back to that video to see. It's been a little bit too long for me. But Chitubox lets you choose all the shapes, the sizes, everything you want. Now, for your average everyday user, this is more than you likely need to do. So they, of course, have some generic settings, which is your light, medium, and heavy, and that just chooses the basic sizes for you. They're not bad. I think the light is way too thin, and I think the heavy is way too thick, so the medium is just right. It gets the job done. Now, we can also see that we can go back and revert back to factory if we wanted. Like this support being here is absolutely ridiculous. We're going to come in and we're going to delete this support. You have to highlight it and then click delete. So then I'm going to come in here and just click there. Let's see what it does. I'm curious to see. Okay. So instead of it going around the outside, it's going to go kind of through the window in the back, which is a better place for the support to be. Add a support there, and while we're at it, we'll add one right there. We can see it doesn't like that, so let's look at moving it. We can grab this, we can move it to where it's a little bit closer and less of a problem. Singular supports standing on their own present issues for failures. If they're really that thin, you'll deal with it potentially shifting as it's printing because, again, the fluid has viscosity to it, and that can move the support out of the way, which might end up causing a print failure. So be careful. If you can have it attached to other supports, please do. It makes supports safer, right? That's what we want to do. The goal of resin printing is not to reduce the amount of material that you use, but it is to do the best to ensure that the print is successful. We talked about this in past videos, but if you have to spend a little bit more money, like 20 cents or something ridiculous, to ensure that your part is going to have a better chance of success, why wouldn't you? Especially if you're doing this for a business. Use more supports than you think you need, and just do a little bit of sanding in post. I know that takes time. You'll be fine. I promise. We can come back here. It does weirdly reorient the model, but that's fine. We can look at hollowing the model, and this will allow us to set the wall thickness. Anything thinner than about 1.5 is going to be so thin it's likely going to blow out. So be careful. We're going to go to 1.6 because that's just what I had. It does appear that this is where the infill has found its way to. Again, not a huge fan of infill, so don't do it. You also have a hollowing process animation that is for inner or outer. So let's go ahead and get that started. Oh, I don't want the animation. Okay, well, let's just going to do it. I mean, that's cool, but I don't want that. Is the model hollow? Let's find out. Yes, the model is totally hollow. But now we have a problem because it is missing supports. Let's drill our holes inside of the Benchy first. 3mm is a good size. Set your depth to what makes the most sense. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a hole. And, I don't know, let's put one there. Fail. Could not hollow or the dig is too deep. All right, we'll add a hole here. Hey, we got that. And, let's do another one there. Is it going to go all the way out the bottom? I bet it will. It might. That's all right. And we will do one more kind of on the back here. Good enough. We're just going to remove all the supports because they are going to get in the way for when we're doing our hollowing. We're not able to get rid of that hole, so I'm just going to add another hole here. And if you want, you can choose to keep the hole. That is nice, so that if you want to add it in later, you can. And you can, of course, do it perpendicular to the model or to the screen. It's up to you. That's fine. We'll add another hole. Beautiful. So we have a hollowed model, and I will say the hollowing here is pretty easy. If we do X-ray, that'll also show us what it looks like on the inside, but solid is just fine. The clipping view on this works phenomenally well. This is really one of the nice things that I like about Chitubox. Its clipping view does work quite nicely. We can see the holes that we've added in there. And what we're looking for is to ensure that we don't have any large pockets of resin that could potentially cause problems. And from what I can see, we do not. So we can go over here back to the support. It's processing for whatever reason it wants to process. And we are going to go ahead and add all. Now that's also going to add support on the inside of the model. This is support that, as you can imagine, you're not going to get out of it. So if you are someone that wants to make sure you get all of the support out of your model, please make certain that you design it accordingly. Well, that is what the actual heck is going on here. Oh, Chitubox. Oh, Chitubox. I think the model is so darn thin, it's just truncating support. Yep. It is literally just truncating support. This is not right, ladies and gentlemen. This is not how this is supposed to work. Like, why? Why any slicer does this is beyond me. All right, we're just gonna hollow to, like, I don't know, 2. We'll re-hollow it. Are all my holes still there? Yes. That's nice. It does leave all the holes there for you. I'm gonna go ahead and go for all one more time on the support side of things. Nope. Okay, don't hollow your models in Chitubox. Okay, well, if you want to, you can use Chitubox to hollow your models and then put them back into Lychee or Lychee Slicer if you want, but you can just hollow your models in freaking Prusa Slicer and not have to deal with this freaking garbage slicer. Why is this happening? Like, I'm sorry. There's no reason. Like, there is no reason that this should be doing this. None. Why in all of its, like, infinite wisdom does it decide that just running support through your model makes sense? You know, the industry has always made fun of Chitubox for its name, some of them calling it Shittybox. And it's issues like this that I can't disagree with them. I was hoping that V1.9 would solve a lot of the problems that we saw in 1.8.1 and 1.7.3, but no, it doesn't. This model is not printable, okay? You're gonna end up with, like, supports that are truncating through your part. This'll never work. Well, okay, it will print. It's gonna print just fine, but the model's gonna be worthless to you. And if you're a business, this has no value. None. This is not good. So if you want to deal with hollowed models, be careful. Let's go ahead and slice it. Let's see how fast it goes. I'm also going to bring up Task Manager so you guys can see how rough this is on the computer. We have pinned all 8 cores, but it's very fast. This is something that I like about the newer version of Chitubox. The older ones took way longer. Now, I can also tell you that it does save pretty quickly, but as you can see, based on the uptime of my computer, I'm not doing that again. I'm not saving it. I'm not going to be using Chitubox moving forward. But as you can see here, and look at this, like, I don't have a bad computer, okay? I can't scrub through this without it being a huge issue, and it literally is lagging behind. And we see that it's at 16.09 millimeters, 3 hours 41. All of those are pretty standard for a Benchy, especially one that's hollowed. And if you need to change it, you can change it right here. All of your basic settings for your model. So this is about your retraction speed, your lifting distance, and your lifting speed. So this is nice. They let you change it before you go and save it. And you also have the option to do network sending. What's all this? Detecting islands? I didn't know that Chitubox could detect islands. All right, we're going to detect some islands. Let's see what happens. Boy, it's slow, though. But I guess for what it's doing, I bet it's going to find a ton because of all this random support material. I didn't know that Chitubox could do that. I was going to give it an F because of all this crap and the fact that it crashed my computer. And I recognize that my experience is a single source experience, but I had issues with 1.8 where it would just randomly put blank layers in, which would instantly cause failures. 1.7.3 was the last Chitubox that actually worked for me. And I was going to give it an F because they still haven't solved some of these egregious UI and UX issues. Like, Chitubox, guys, get a UI and UX designer. Okay, so we've detected islands, but I don't see any of them. I am sure there are islands on this print. There really is no way that there aren't. Yeah, I don't know, guys. Normally, I would use UV tools or photon file validator to look for islands and fix them, because that's a pixel perfect thing, which is something that you actually have to pay for in Lychee Slicer. But realistically, I can't even tell you if this works, because I never even knew this was a feature. Can I do this back here? No, you can't. So wait a minute. The only place... hello? Hello? Where'd the Benchy go? What is this? Like, what is this? Seriously. Where's my model? Like, seriously, Chitubox, fix this. Seriously. This is not user-friendly. The model's just gone. If I want to bring it back, I gotta do everything all over again. It's just not there. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution rests. This is egregious. Why does this occur? We know the 3D Benchy is not a clean model, but like, now, if I was in the middle of doing a bunch of stuff, I'd have to go back, find another one, and do it all over again. And I don't want to do that. But here we are. We gotta load the Benchy back in. Oh, if my build plate was upside down. I had no idea. Why? Guys, I thought I found a really cool option in Chitubox, and apparently it just breaks things. I can't recommend this software. Like, the only reason I've ever used Chitubox was because Prusa Slicer can't export the file format that you need to print on cheap resin printers. I'm gonna recommend that you guys give Lychee Slicer a try, or Lychee Slicer. I recommend you give them a try. I recommend you try Prusa Slicer. We'll card to one of their videos here. I can't recommend this software. I can't. I was gonna give it a D and say that, oh, hey, it can detect islands and fix them, but it doesn't. I guess this gives us another opportunity, though, to redo our rotation. We're gonna do add all, because now I'm not gonna hollow the model. And then we'll go to slice it. We're adding supports. Do we have supports being truncated through? No, we don't. It's actually avoiding the model, like it should. All right, so let's try to slice this model as it stands. I'm not gonna touch anything else. I know there are islands on this, so it'll be interesting to see. We can now go ahead and detect islands. Dude, I promise there are islands on this model. Maybe this feature just isn't properly implemented yet, or maybe it's a pro-only feature. But anyways, I can't recommend this software, guys. I'm sorry. Like, the first look took well over 5 hours to do. I have never had a first look on a software that took this long. And it's because it literally crashed my computer to the point where I had to load a new image. Be careful. Be very, very careful if you're going to use Chitubox. And oh yeah, it requires a login. So friggin' user beware, man. It's not as bad as Matter hackers, because at least this, like their end user license agreement, you know where this is coming from. They're not auto opting you in for any of that stuff. So at least there's that. But like, I can't recommend this software. If you guys have some tips or tricks to make it work, let me know in the comments below. But as far as I'm concerned, there are considerably better ones out there that will work with your machines. So there's really not a problem with it. Go try other ones, because you won't know what else is out there unless you do. If it wasn't for this series, I don't know if I would have ever tried Lychee Slicer. And it's amazing. And Chitubox just looks even worse after trying Lychee Slicer first. And I have experience in Chitubox. But I'm going to do the same thing that I've always done with Chitubox, and it is to run one of the older versions, because these newer versions continue to get worse. They make some quality of life improvements. The slicing is crazy fast. The saving, crazy fast. But there's just a lot left to be desired. I'd love to know your opinion down in the comments below. Do you use Chitubox? Am I just an idiot? Let me know. But stay safe out there, everybody. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you want to see about all the other resin 3D printer slicers, we'll have that playlist linked right below me. But if you want to learn more about slicers for FDM, we'll have that playlist down over there as well. Don't forget, Patreon is coming soon, TM. And your name could be on the screen right now. We live stream twice a week, so make sure you guys get subscribed so you can come hang out with me. And we do some cool stuff. We're doing a lot of unboxings and repairs, so I hope to see you guys in the next one, and I'll see you down in the comments. Take care.